Welcome to the Royal Road School of Carmelite Prayer. We continue our study of an article written by Edith Stein, Love4Love, the life and the works of St. Teresa of Jesus. At present, Edith Stein is going through the different stages that the soul goes through as it moves towards union with God. So we continue. St. Teresa calls the next stage the stage of quiet or simplicity. Various activities are replaced by a recollection of spiritual energies. The soul is no longer in a position to reflect intellectually or to make definitive decisions. She is only engaged by something she cannot avoid, the presence of her God, who is close to her and allows her to rest in Him. While the lower prayer stages are accessible to every believer by human effort, albeit aided by the grace of God, of course, we are now standing at the border of the mystical life of grace that cannot be entered by virtue of human energy, for here only God's special favor grants admission. If the perception of God's presence is already something which totally captivates the soul and gives it a happiness incomparable to any earthly happiness, then this is greatly surpassed by the union with the Lord, which at first is usually granted to the soul for only a very short time. At this stage of mystical favor, many events occur that are also outwardly recognized as extraordinary. For example, ecstasies and visions. The energy of the soul is so attracted by the supernatural influence that its lower faculties, the senses, lose their effectiveness entirely. The soul no longer sees or hears anything. The body no longer feels pain when injured, and in some cases becomes rigid, like someone dead. But the soul lives an intensified life as if it were outside its body. Sometimes the Lord Himself appears to it in bodily form, sometimes the Mother of God, or an angel, or a saint. It sees these heavenly forms as if through bodily perception, or also in imagination, or its intellect is supernaturally enlightened and gains insight into hidden truths. Such private revelations usually have the purpose of teaching souls about their own condition or that of others, of confiding God's intentions to them, and of forming them for a specific task for which God has selected them. They are seldom absent in the lives of saints, though they by no means belong to the essence of holiness. Usually they only appear during a certain phase and then later vanish. These souls who have been sufficiently prepared and tested by repeated transitory union with Him, by extraordinary illuminations, and at the same time through suffering and various trials, the Lord wishes to bind to Himself permanently. He enters into a covenant with them that is called spiritual betrothal. He expects them to put themselves completely at His service, and at the same time, He takes them into safekeeping. He cares for them and is always ready to grant their requests. Finally, Teresa calls the highest stage of blessedness spiritual marriage. The extraordinary events have now stopped, but the soul is constantly united with the Lord. She enjoys His presence even in the midst of external activities without being hindered in the least. The saint had to go through all of these stages during a development that took years before Teresa could account for them herself and give others advice. But the beginnings were during that time of greatest bodily suffering. Amen. So we will pick up and we will continue with the effect of her prayer life the next time. So I hope that you're enjoying this journey of the soul through to union with God that Teresa has written down in her book, The Interior Castle. So thank you so much for following along, and may God bless you and yours. Amen.